So I have this vivid memory from when I was in 5th grade. I was sitting at my desk eating a peanut butter jelly sandwich. My elementary school didn't have a cafeteria, so every day we would eat lunch in the classroom. And every day my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Hutchinson, would read to us during lunch, and we loved it. And on this particular day, we were getting to the end of the book, Where the Red Fern Grows. And the whole book, I was, so enthralled, and then I don't want to be a spoiler, but at the end, there's an incredible sad ending to the book. And I had a reaction to literature that I never had up to that point. Tears streaming down my face. Mrs. Hutchinson was a very special teacher to me, life-changing. She was that teacher who was challenging, strict, tough, but also caring, loving, and really set the example for me when I later on entered the classroom as a teacher. And I know that if we all kind of think about our own lives, we probably have at least one, maybe several teachers who made that kind of life-changing impact on us. And as we think about kind of the state of the teaching profession in our country and how we look at teachers, we'd probably say, yes, teachers are important, right? That's kind of a given. And there's plenty of research that backs us up in terms of how important teachers are. There have been numerous studies and reports that look at the effect of teachers on kids. Most notably, we have the Carnegie report that makes the case that teachers are the most important school-based factor for student achievement. And a few years after that, a Rand Institute report that confirms this and even makes the case that of all the school-based factors, the quality of the teacher is 2 to 3 times more important than things like the services provided at the school site, the facility, even school leadership. And even the Obama administration is all in on this notion that teachers are important. But we as a society have a problem. We don't value teachers and the teaching profession as we ought. With this disconnect between what we say of like, oh yes, of course teachers are important. Think about Mrs. Hutchinson all the time and how she changed my life, to the way our society looks at and portrays teachers, we have a problem. When we take a look at this phrase, this saying, those who can do and those who can't teach, this emblemizes the problem that we have in that if you were to think about a loved one, a family member who really smart and you feel like, yes, they're going places. If they came to you and said, hey, I'm thinking about becoming a teacher, how would you respond in that situation? Would it be, great, yes, teaching is such a noble profession, which we all know to be true, or are you thinking, oh, you're so smart though. You could be so successful in something else. Why don't you become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer? As we think about the importance of teachers and how we view the teaching profession, we need to address this problem. As we take a look at these stats up here, so a recent report from the Third Way took a look at how young people today view the teaching profession. They surveyed college students, top performing college students, to get their perceptions, and we see that there's waning interest in the teaching profession. And as we consider over the next decade, we're going to need to fill about 3 million teaching positions. So we pose the question, who's going to be stepping into these roles? As we look at the waning interest and look at how young kids today are viewing the education field as just average, it doesn't hold the same value that going into law has or going into medicine. And that's something we need to address together. This graphic shows the jumbled pathways that there are to enter into the teaching profession as compared to other fields. So we know that if you want to become a lawyer, you go to college, take the LSAT, apply to law schools, you go to law school, and then you take the bar exam, and you're a lawyer. And it's similar for other highly regarded professions as well. But when we compare that to the tangled web that we weave of becoming a classroom teacher and all the hoops you have to jump through depending on where you are, what that particular state's requirements are, that there are some policy issues at play here where we're not incentivizing young people today to really understand and value entering into the teaching profession. Now, this is a stark contrast when we compare this to other countries. Those of us in education, we hear a lot about Finland, South Korea, Singapore, where you have phenomenal results and a fundamental difference in how the teaching profession is considered by their societies. When we take a look at Finland, for example, their recruiting pool of teachers, they're looking not at the college level, but at the high school level of the top 20% of their high school students. And similarly in South Korea, primary school teachers in South Korea are recruited from a pool of the top 5% of high school students. And then in Singapore, again, teachers are recruited from a pool of the top 30%. Fundamentally, we have a different approach in this country in terms of who we're recruiting to enter into the teaching profession. So in comparison, the United States, on these same PISA assessments, this internationally benchmarked assessments, we're seeing downward trends in our country. So taking a look at reading scores from 2009, going from a ranking of 11th place down to 21st place. In science, 20th place down to 24th place. And then in math, going from 25th to a ranking of 31st. We have to make some fundamental changes. If we truly believe that teachers are important, we must address this issue of elevating and modernizing the teaching profession. So I propose 3 ideas to consider. First, we need to rethink the way we compensate teachers. Second, we need to rethink the way we support teachers. And third, we need to ensure that teachers have a seat at the table when it comes to policy decisions that are made that impact our schools and our classrooms. So let's talk about teacher compensation. When you consider the way teachers are compensated in our country, it's almost a joke. And when we even look at the way it's portrayed in media, right? Think about kind of what young people today are seeing in terms of what they know about kind of how teachers are paid. You're kind of rewarded by the number of years you're in the classroom, how many units you have, and then there's no kind of consideration for actually kind of how hard you're working and how good of a job you're doing. In a recent report from McKinsey, we take a look at this notion of like, oh, well, teachers, they only work till 3, they get their summers off. But in reality, teachers are working a lot. On average, 10 hours a day, 52 hours a week. And when we compare the teaching profession to other professions that require similar levels of education, teachers are making about 14% less than other professions. And then the average starting salary for teachers in our country is $39,000, and the average ending salary is $67,000. Here in Los Angeles, in LA Unified, teachers haven't had a pay raise since 2007. That's the same year the iPhone first came out. So I asked, what are we going to see first, the next iteration of the iPhone or a raise for our hardworking, dedicated teachers? Now, it's not just about giving teachers a raise. I mean, that's obviously important. But this is an opportunity for us to rethink how teachers are compensated as a whole. And we're starting to see examples of this across the country where teachers are given opportunities to take on hybrid roles as they're taking additional leadership opportunities and compensated accordingly. So we must rethink the way we compensate our teachers. Secondly, we must fundamentally rethink the way teachers are supported. Now, across the country, earlier this month, we celebrated National Teacher Appreciation Week, which is great, to be intentional for 1 week during the year where we thank our teachers for the hard work that they do. And there are great organizations like DonorsChoose.org. This is something that we can all do today as soon as we get home. Go onto this website, you can view different classroom projects that teachers have posted and fund projects around, for classrooms around Los Angeles. But 1 week out of the year isn't enough. And with this transition period that we're going through to the Common Core state standards, we have an opportunity to fundamentally rethink the way we support our teachers, the way we train our teachers, the way professional development opportunities are done. It's not a big secret among teachers that professional development isn't really working all that well. So what I'm proposing is that we give teachers more opportunities to collaborate with each other, to exchange ideas, to work together, and to do this during regular school hours, during the school year, to give teachers a structured time so that it's not just all done on the weekends or in the evenings. So we need to support our teachers differently. Thirdly, we need to ensure that teachers are at the table when policy decisions are made that impact our schools and our classrooms. Historically, there's been a vacuum when it comes to decisions that are made, whether it's at the district level, state level, or even at the federal policy level. In this particular instance, we have LAUSD teacher Pearl Arredondo meeting with U.S. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan. And this is a great example of how teachers can help the policymakers make more informed decisions, because classroom teachers are the professionals, they're the practitioners who are in front of kids every day and who can help inform the decisions and identify ramifications and just help us make smarter decisions for our kids. So in conclusion, as we bring it back to those who can do, those who can't teach, I'm reminded of a time where I met an award-winning educator in New York City about a decade ago, when he was at a dinner party, heard this phrase and said, "You know, you're right. Those who can't teach, those who can't sit on the sidelines, those who can't just be okay with the status quo, sure, that's me." And I propose to you today that this event today is a powerful proof point that those who can teach. I love the fact that this event was organized by a group of classroom teachers who, in addition to doing amazing things with kids every day, in the little spare time they have left, created this opportunity for us. Let's give them a hand. And finally, my charge to you all is that we have to change the discourse about the teaching profession. And I want to bring it back to Mrs. Hutchinson. If we're successful at elevating the teaching profession as a country, my hope is that we'll be able to ensure that more students across the country have access to teachers like Mrs. Hutchinson, and we fundamentally change the culture of the teaching profession such that young people today will be aspiring to become classroom teachers like Mrs. Hutchinson. Thank you.